relationships, etc., and helping us bond together at this time, which is so important that we're all on the same page, etc. And that's what happened was.
Give me 1 second, John.
Incredible. Yeah. At every level, you know, getting people on.
Okay, so you won't let me know. Ain't gonna let me do that. Let me know. Pardon me from technical difficulty. Okay, so why can't I minimize it?
We got the right guy.
Yeah, it's gonna be hard to get an impersonator. We're doing the DNA fingerprint sample on the.
We got the right guy.
Yeah, it's gonna be hard to get an impersonator. We're doing the DNA fingerprint sample on the cowhide. You never know. I might have been taken by aliens, and they've got one of the bots here pretending to be me.
No, Juan. Jesus said he was protecting you, so I'm trusting that he's got an eye on you, so there's no way that's possible. We had the privilege to talk to him that Sunday morning. We were in Vegas. It was wonderful.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, he's a wonderful guy.
Well, it's important. Everybody got a chance to kind of visit and meet. I don't know how you can put a value on that. You only got so many days on this earth, and that was one of those periods when you got to actually go. It's got value to me that you just can't put a number on.
Absolutely right. I mean, the relationships, etc., and helping us bond together at this time, which is so important that we're all on the same page, etc. And that's what happened was just absolutely incredible.
Yes.
At every level, you know, getting people on shows and communicating and encouraging each other and helping each other and all that. It wouldn't have happened without those couple days. So it was absolutely amazing.
Well, and
everybody's talking about it.
I don't want to get everybody all wound up, but we might possibly do something on the East Coast here. And I've had numerous people ask to do it, and so we'll see if we did it probably the last week of April, first week of May, somewhere in there, and I'll see if something generates that would make sense. But I don't want to get everybody all wound up prematurely. But I'm just telling you that's it's a fair possibility.
Oh, great! That's wonderful.
So.
That's wonderful one.
Where are we, sir? March 4th, the inauguration event.
Yeah. Well, I will tell you this. I just drove down by the White House a few minutes ago, and of course, all the barriers are still up around the White House. You know, they've got them fenced in. They're not getting away from anybody. Okay. In fact, one of the things that was funny, I had not the general that you folks met out there in Nevada, but I had a different one. He and I were visiting the other night. So he says, "Hey, have you noticed that, like, at all those checkpoints around the White House, they have the man cages?" I says, "What are you talking about? What are you talking?" No. They're like boxes. And so you can come in, and then they close the door behind you. And unless they clear you out, they can pick that cage up and put it in the back of the truck. We had those before. And why they got those there still, I don't know. Do you know?
No, I don't know. Nobody knows. Why we don't know?
We don't know.
Oh, my God. Well, you know, there's a certain logic to that. You know, if you kind of know what's coming, maybe that makes sense, I suppose. You know, and a lot of things have double meanings, you know. That can keep somebody from getting away, can keep them coming in. So, you know, you have a lot of things in life that have, you know, more than one meaning. So, like, for example, let's look at another dual meaning potentially. Ooh.
I got my pen. I got my pen, Juan. Go ahead.
Okay, so write down.
Yep.
POW dash MIA. Now, where have we seen that before? We had a flag that we've flown for a long time. You know, we were looking for our guys that hadn't been brought back, hadn't been accounted for in the Vietnam conflict. And so, you know, we had the flag in remembrance, solidarity with those that hadn't been accounted for and who might still be there. Of course, we had the first or second, I guess, second or third of the not the Rocky movies, but the Sylvester Stallone movies over there in Vietnam, going back to Fine Guys, and you know, so certainly there. But you know what? They've been flying over the White House over the last week or so, and then a number of other facilities around the city here. What are they flying? They're flying. No, they're flying the black flag, the Vietnam POWMIA flag.
Right, I've heard.
Okay, so when you think of dual meanings, who's the POW and who's missing in action? Somebody sending a little coded message right there in plain sight.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm satisfied.
Well, you know, and so I got. In fact, they have a meeting tomorrow. We were going to do it tonight, but my guy was too tired coming in from outside the country, and first thing he wanted to ask me, and I said, we'll talk about it tomorrow. But you know, first thing he wanted to ask, and this is a pretty connected person. This is one of the most politically connected people in Eastern Europe. First thing he wanted to ask him, what the hell's going on? Any idea? Do you understand? Nothing of what you're seeing is making sense.
Right.
Governments, not just citizens. You got all these citizens around the country. They're all wound up and they're upset because, you know, they don't understand what's going on here. And what's being said, what's happening, it just doesn't make any sense. Somebody's got to do something.
Right.
Okay. Well, you know what? Get in line. It doesn't make sense to lots and lots and lots and lots of people, including other governments from around the world. Somebody mentioned, in fact, I just want to clarify one thing. Somebody brought to my attention. You know, I mentioned that these aircraft carrier task forces that are off the coast, 3 off the West Coast, 2 off the East Coast of the United States, and then those that are out in the China Sea and Indian Sea. You know, I mentioned they have about 100 vessels each. And said, well, you only got 300, you know, Navy ships floating right now in the whole Navy. They're out doing any work. And, you know, so that's more than you could possibly have. Now, you got support vessels. You got other vessels that are supply ships and things like that are included in that vast array. And so that's where some of those numbers come from. You have direct warships and submarines and all sorts of things. So you start adding it up, and with all the smaller vessels are out there, it's about 100. And some of our Navy guys could come in and fill that out if you want. But you know, that there's a lot of smaller ones too that are included in there. So it's an approximate number. Depends on what the mission is and what they're doing. But the fact of the matter is, governments all around the world are looking at what's happening here in awe, because they realize that for all that a certain, you know, thing is being presented as, it's all normal. It's all, you know, everything, the transitions happen seamlessly, and it's a very normal administration. Oh, really? Okay. So where was the State of the Union this year? When did that happen?
Right.
Okay. And where's the big press conferences and the, you know, Air Force One diplomacy. Go visit all the other big countries around the world and let them know we're here and what's going on, and change of policy, and we've won the world back, and now we're going back to insanity liberalism. Okay, a billion. We can have every single thing administered by executive order. No more dogs crapping on the sidewalk. I make an executive order to that. No more dog crapping on the sidewalk. Okay, how many more executive orders till everything's solved now?
Right.
And somebody got upset too, because I laugh a lot sometimes when I think about this stuff. He must be drunk. He must be drunk. Well, have an orange juice, actually. Orange juice and sparkling water. So I'm not drunk. I'm just having fun. Sometimes when you're, they said that the apostles were drunk when they had the upper room experience, and the Spirit of God came upon them. Well, you know what? This is biblical times. A lot of the stuff we're going through right now in the world is so shocking. Somewhere in the future, somewhere down the road, people will look at this moment in history in awe, and you'll have children, grandchildren that didn't fully understand what's going on right now or weren't even born, and they're going to look back on this moment in history. Grandpa, Grandma, what was it like? What did they tell you? What was happening? Because the accounts out there, you go back and look at old news stories and stuff like that, and it has a certain piece of information here or there, but there's a lot of intricacies that right now you're going to be these messengers, this message in the bottle, that they're going to get the word, what really happened from your eyes, your perspective, how you felt, how the people around you interpreted these things. And even that trip out to Vegas, getting to meet with other influencers and think about things and converse and create new connections. All of that because you guys are the message in the bottle. And your audience is the message in the bottle for the future, to be able to recount what really happened in this time frame, what it was really like, what it really felt like. Because you can say anything you want. These people can laugh at us all they want. The reality is, whatever's being portrayed, whatever things are happening, something that has never happened before in history, in the history of this country, that anybody can remember at the very least, something wild, unusual, different is happening right now. And you guys are the recorders. You guys are the stylists on the record, leaving this imprint in this moment in history, how we're going to recall and talk about and convey this moment in history to future generations. It wasn't what they wrote in the paper at the time. It wasn't what was on CNN. Okay?
Yeah. Yes. That's
history is going to be written by the victors.
Yes.
We will be the victors. We will recount what was important to us. This moment is about stopping this running roughshod over the American people. This government completely out of control, making up laws out of whole cloth that have nothing to do with the Constitution, the constitutional agreement between the citizens and the government. The government doesn't run America. The citizens run America. The government does the bidding of the citizens. If that's gotten out of whack, it's not going to stay out of whack. We, the people, will not.
Do we have interference? That's amazing. Are you there?
And go ahead. I'm sorry.
Sorry about that. We got a little interference for a hot second.
Well, long and short of it is this isn't going to stand. The government's gotten out of control. We, the people, are the owners of the government. We control the government. It's not the other way around. Even if it got out of balance for a period of time, it won't stay that way forever. You know, the other day, one of the broadcasts, I think it might have been used, but somebody else's possibly. I mentioned Belshazzar. Belshazzar was this king, the last king of Babylon in the biblical narrative. And a lot of people would remember Belshazzar for the saying, the handwriting on the wall.
On the wall, yeah. That was Dino. He was on Dino, yeah.
Yep. Well, and so let's tell your audience about this, folks. Let's think about this. Let's dissect it for a second.
Okay.
Before Belshazzar, I should say, put a T in there. It's not correct. It's Belshazzar. Belshazzar was this king of Babylon, and what had happened early on, Israel, because it was not doing things the way God wanted them done, and they'd gone into sin and all that, they'd been conquered by a power from outside the country, the Babylonians. And so they were taken into slavery, and which of course they'd been in slavery in Egypt, and God freed them. But because they weren't doing things in a godly way, and horrible things were happening in their kingdom, including that they were worshiping Baal and Moloch, which were these demon gods, this satanic god that required them to sacrifice their children in order to get a good harvest and things like that up on the hills. The scripture says that they made their sons and daughters to pass through the fire, which is a very Sunday school preacher way of saying they burned their kids alive in a sacrifice to Satan. Okay, before the idol, the golden idol of Baal. And think about very clearly, because you almost get apoplectic when you really realize what these people were doing with small children. It's incomprehensible to any sane mind. God himself would not allow them to continue this way in the land this holy land that he had set aside for his children, his children's children, the children of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And those people, this demonic cult taking over the country and operating it and administrating it that way, he wouldn't put up with it anymore. The sign, in part, that these people were completely taking over Israel as in Kings, it talks about how they had put their pole gods, these monoliths, to their pole god, which was a coded way of saying the penis of Osiris, another Babylonian god fiction that goes all the way up to the Washington Monument for symbology, that they put these pole emblems, these big phallic symbols, these dildos right there in the Holy of Holies, there in the first temple where God was worshipped. And so they had this blended, commingled religious symbology right there in the Holy of Holies. And it says they were bowing to the rising sun in the east, which is the god Horus, the rising sun, in mythology, the child of Osiris, all of which I talk about in the book, and I've mentioned numerous other times in other interviews. But they were turning their ass towards God and bowing to the rising sun as though that was a god, worshiping the creation and not the creator. So God sends them into captivity. They're overtaken by the Babylonians, and they go into slavery. Daniel is a child, and he's taken into slavery. And the Babylonians, what they did with the young boys, they killed the men. They would keep the girls for concubines, for sex slaves, and the men they would kill. The young boys they'd keep alive but so that you couldn't have them reproducing, they'd castrate them. And so they'd be eunuchs, unable to have children, and then would serve, the kings. They'd be like Michael Jackson with a falsetto voice the rest of their life because they never matured. And so they were also made to, the ones that were smarter, whatever, would become, servants in other ways. Some of them became priests and prophets in that time period because they were accountants, they were administrators, and that was their role, but they could never have their own children. So to survive, they had a certain role they had to play. So Daniel, this young boy, was castrated, put in the service of the king. As he got older, he had God still working in his life as a child of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, a Jew child. He was sensitive to the direction of God. And a number of events happened during his life that were incredible. One of them was that Nebuchadnezzar, who was this great king of Babylon, who God himself, according to the biblical narrative, and to Daniel, God himself had appointed Nebuchadnezzar to this role, this position, this leadership place over men. He was not a godly man, but yet God had put him in this position of power. And he had this incredible, huge kingdom. At a certain point in his life, Nebuchadnezzar was so haughty and full of himself, how big he is, beating his chest and commanding the world and this great kingdom and everything else, that God let him lose his mind for a period of years, 7 years. And he actually lived like an animal. But because he was king and the people recognized that he was still king can do whatever he wants. Well, under some divine ordinance, Nebuchadnezzar literally goes out and he lives like an animal for 7 years, eating the grass and twigs and running around naked all over the place. And they put up with him. They kept him as king. Sounds a little like something going on right now. But anyway, they have him out there, completely, totally out of his mind. But they're still, protecting him. Don't let the wild animals eat him or whatever. And, make sure he's at least in the side of the field with the green grass so he can eat grass if that's what he wants to do. He's king. They actually at some level understood there was some kind of a divine thing going on because Daniel had actually said a prophecy over him about what was going to happen. And after this period of time, Nebuchadnezzar comes back to his right mind, his senses, his understanding, and he gets his wits about him again. And then he worships God, and he is very sensitive to any move of God and saw his role as being at the mercy of the God in heaven. And so over time, Daniel has lived through that kingdom and subsequent kings after that. Daniel lived to be a very, very old man. And so the guys that came after him, they forgot all the stuff that Nebuchadnezzar went through. Everything that Dad told the sons. They apparently forgot it. They were living high in the hog. They're driving Lamborghinis and Ferraris. They got all the girls they want. They're eating, fat every day. Parties. It's hey, children of the king, we party when we feel like it. We stop partying when we feel like it. Okay. They're living high on the hog, and Dad dies off, and nobody to keep attention on them or remind them of the old stories. They forgot the history. And so Belshazzar, I keep wanting to add that T for some reason. I want to take the belt to him. I want to take the belt to him and slap him silly for him. Anyway, Belshazzar he's throwing a party, and the legend has it was for 1,000 guests there in Babylon. And in Babylon, you have to remember, this is the city with one of the 7 wonders of the world at the time, the Hanging Gardens. An unbelievable masterpiece of engineering and technology, of watering and everything else. And of course, what was part of the reason for this garden? We sing about it even today. We got to get back to the garden. Okay, I was headed out to Yesler's farm. Got to get back to the garden. They all want to go back to the garden. Adam wanted to go back to the garden. Okay, and was barred off from him. So they build these incredible hanging gardens in the city. That's one of these 7 wonders of the world. People came from everywhere and were just amazed at what, technologically they saw there. And it was just something to behold. This huge, powerful kingdom with great walls, high density, everybody living protected inside there. And of course, the Babylonians reigning over the rest of the region, forcing them to do their will and to give tithes and taxes and everything to support the kingdom. And all these people enslaved in there. So Belshazzar's feeling pretty good. He shows up in his Lamborghini. Everybody lets him out. He's got 3 girls on his side. Goes into the party. There's 1,000 officials there. 10 more girls waiting for him. He's showing off to everybody. They got all the best robes, entertainment, and all of the dancers are there. They're having a great party. And at some point in here, just to rub everybody's faces in it, to show how tough they are, and to show how he's got control of everything, even the gods worship him. And to make his point that he controls even God, that nobody is greater than he is. Even though Nebuchadnezzar had bowed his knee to the God in heaven, the God of the Jews, and realized that he was there at the mercy of the God in heaven, Belshazzar, got it right that time, Belshazzar is all cocky, and he's showing off to all of these other officials who are also leaders in their own little fiefdoms and administrators. He's got the head of the agriculture department there. He's got the head of the energy department there. He's got the head of the defense department there. They're all there with their girlfriends, wives, whatever else, and they're showing off. I arrived at my tank today. Look at my new sight on here. Everybody's just having this great old time. So he calls for the utensils, the golden utensils from the temple, the first temple of the Jews, which had been sacked when they had gone in and conquered Israel and taken all the Israelis' slaves into the kingdom. And so they have all these instruments that Nebuchadnezzar and the other kings had set aside, had kept, in the museum in some protected way that, didn't dishonor God himself behind them, but they were no longer used in the temple, but they were highly valuable golden utensils. They didn't melt them down and turn them into gold bars or something. They recognized there was some value. But Nebuchadnezzar, I should say Belshazzar, he is all cocky. They reach a certain point in the party that night. They've had enough to drink, and he's got to one-up everybody else. He's got to be the showman. He's got to show them. Even God himself doesn't have any control over me. I do what I want, when I want. No. Utensils to be brought in, and they're going to party with them. They're going to drink wine out of it. They're going to get more drunk. They're literally having, a rave right there. And and more. Sex party right there. And they're going to do it right there before God and all of everything. They're just out of their minds. And in the course of this, all of a sudden, as they're really getting into the heat of the party, out of nowhere, a hand, disembodied hand, just the hand, appears in a cloud right there in the midst of the party. And on a stone wall, right there behind them all, the hand begins to write into the stone as though it's butter. And that hand writes in a language that they don't understand, says stuff they don't understand what it means. And, I don't care that I don't know what it means. I can just tell you, there was a hand writing on the wall, writing in the stone, like it was butter. Okay? I don't know what it means, but I can tell you, isn't that normal? Something isn't right here. We haven't seen this anywhere. And they're just, the party stops cold, stops dead. You think, I was still having a drink here. Okay, well, I'll watch while I was writing. Are you kidding me?
Right.
You think there was anybody still drinking through that?
No.
They're just, whatever was going on, they stopped right there. They finished whatever they were doing. They're just totally fixated.
Yes.
Their knees are knocking together. They're like they're in the cold. They're shaking. They can't stop it. Okay? When you're in that kind of fear, when the adrenaline's running like that, you may want to stop the shaking. You can't stop it.
That's right.
Okay? Because the fear can be so great. The adrenaline charge. These adrenochrome feeders, they get a charge from it. Well, God had a little fun having them have a charge of their own.
Right.
Okay? They can dish it out. Can they take it?
That's right.
Okay? It's fine when it's the other person. It's all fun and games till. So they're standing there. They can't read it. So Belshazzar does the only thing he knows to do. Call the priest. Call the wizards and the witches. Call them in here right now. See what that says. I don't know what happened, but we gotta get answers right now. Get me some answers immediately. Get somebody that knows what they're looking at. So they call in all the advisors, all the priestly advisors, all the people that know stuff that are the normal court jesters, and they're called in and they're looking at it. And you don't want to give the wrong answer, because you give the wrong answer, you're going to get your head lopped off. Right. So they're sitting there looking at it. They're trying to figure out what it is that's been written on the wall. The words are there, but they can't understand what it means. But look, a hand shows up out of nowhere and writes on the wall, the hand of God, an angel, whatever it was, an apparition. And it writes right in the stone as though it's butter. You're going to want to find out what they said.
Yes.
Okay? And so that nobody can give an answer. Finally, Belshazzar's wife says there's a prophet of old who helped your grandfather, your father, Nebuchadnezzar. And he would know possibly what this says. He's old enough. He's been around forever. He was a good advisor. We haven't had him around here for a long time, because he says stuff we don't like to hear. Okay? The stuff he talks about and the stuff he did to Nebuchadnezzar as though he did it, not God. He was just, don't shoot me, I'm just the messenger. But they didn't like what he was saying. They didn't like what that messenger was saying. So Daniel's kept off on his own. He's kept out, keep him at the summer house, okay? Other side of town, okay? Don't bring him around here. I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to have him commenting on the Lamborghinis when we show up, okay? Or the girls. So, the queen is listened to. Daniel is sent for, and he shows up at the party. People are adjusting their robes. They're trying to get their hair straight. They're, getting the fog out of their eyes. Sobering up.
Right.
Okay, and nobody's going anywhere. Nobody's leaving.
I like it.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're all fixated. What in the world is going on here? okay? But they're not partying anymore. If somebody's having a drink, to take the edge off, they don't know what to do.
Right.
And so when Daniel arrives, Belshazzar says to Daniel, he says, if you can interpret what's written on the wall here, I will make you the third most powerful person in the kingdom. The second most powerful, of course, would be his queen. So between him and his queen, Daniel would be the most powerful person in the kingdom. And Daniel sees the handwriting on the wall, looks out across the crowd, then he says, what you got? I don't want. I could care less about fame and honor. I could care less about the keys to the Lamborghinis. I have no use for the girls. I'm a eunuch. You made me that. So you can keep all your wealth to yourself. God keeps me wealthy. I get gold of which you know not of. I have the word of God to feed on day and night. The presence of God. The reason you called me here is because God speaks to me and I read God's language. Because he speaks to me all the time. I know what the language means. I haven't lost my way, even if you guys have. And then Daniel, he does something that any kid that's been running amok doesn't want to have to listen to. Daniel says, well, your dad or your grandfather, depending on which way the legend is said, God dealt with him, and you know what? He figured out who was God and who wasn't. He figured out that Nebuchadnezzar wasn't God. Nebuchadnezzar himself figured that out. And God spoke to him, gave him a life experience, and he was humble before God after that. He understood his place in time and history, that he was an instrument of God in dealing justice to the children of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And when they'd gone astray, being God's switch of judgment against the people, correcting them. And so he didn't understand it to begin with, but he understood it by the end. And Daniel recounted all the stories of Nebuchadnezzar and what he'd gone through and how he humbled himself before God. And then Daniel turns to the words on the wall and he says, well, what it reads here to me is right now, your kingdom is required of you. You've been weighed in the balances and found wanting. The scales of justice are tipping away from you. And this day, your life's going to be required of you. And your kingdom is going to be split up between the Medes and the Persians. It's going to be divided, rent, torn in two, and given half to this and half to that. And the term that was used there was the equivalent of 60 shekels. So if you divide 60, you got 30 and 30. Interesting, the 30 is what Judas himself got for betrayal. So Belshazzar, he's knocking down her space. Everybody else there, he figures, oh, this is a horrible, hard work. I don't want to hear this. This is really hard. What can I do? What can I do? And so even though Daniel refused it, what's he going to do? He's trying to kiss up right now as quick as I can to God and to Daniel who spoke this word, okay? We're not shooting the messenger, please. I don't want my kingdom required of me. And he commands that the robes, the colored robes that denote your position of authority be placed on Daniel and that he would be made the ruler of a third of the kingdom. in spite of the fact that Daniel says, I don't want this, I don't care about it, it doesn't mean anything to me. But they do that. But even then, Babylon was this enormous, incredible city. It wasn't just a couple blocks on. It was tens of miles across and around. It was huge. And for any big city, you need water supply. Well, they just so happened to have a huge river that ran right under the walls of the city and right through the city and out the other side. And that water supply is what watered these hanging gardens and did work inside the walls of that city. But the Medes and the Persians had been given some kind of great insight. Their generals had been given some kind of amazing insight. And what they did was they dammed up very quickly, somehow, the water and diverted it so it didn't run into the city. And in the middle of the night, while they were partying and they weren't watching, they were all distracted, the river started to dry up and it went lower and lower. And all of a sudden, where the water ran through the wall underneath the walls of the city was a great big tunnel. And the armies of the Medes and the Persians came in the walls at either end of the city where the river came in and where the river went out. And they began to take over all of the command locations. They killed and took prisoner all of the army that was standing there, standing watch. But because there's a party going on and they're more concerned with, which limo gets in line first, and are you supposed to be at this side of the party or that side? We got to provide security for the party so nobody gets into the party that's not the invited guests at the party. They're doing all sorts of administrative work. They're not doing protective work. And up on the walls of the city, they're watching for anything. Well, who's watching the riverbed? Well, there's a river goes there. They can't get in there. Well, they did. God gave them the plan, gave them the way, and they went in and they captured the city. Darius came in and captured the city, and the city was divided, and all the people were themselves taken into slavery, taken into custody. Right now, here in America, these people are laughing at God himself. They're laughing at us, but they're laughing at God. They think that God himself can't do anything to stop what they're doing to the American people, to the world. I'm here, you're here, every person in this audience is here to tell them one thing. Slaves no fucking more.
That's right.
God's people are not for sale.
That's right.
That you believe that you can run roughshod over God's people here or anywhere else in the world with all your decrees, all your executive orders. You're so full of shit.
That's right. That's right.
Don't kid yourself. And if you do want to kid yourself, fine. Live in a delusion. Get drunk. Be drunk. When the hand comes out of the cloud and your knees are knocking and you're so weak with fear you can't even get up off the ground. You're so devastated in fear. God will be laughing because all that you believed you had, everything you thought you were going to be able to do, is going to be denied to you. Because God is not mocked. When I remember the one gal, God bless her, she brought a speaker system, put right in the middle of the street at the foot of the Capitol and said the Lord's Prayer over that people that gathered. When people were carrying their flags, it wasn't just Trump. It was what President Trump has been standing for. God in America.
Amen.
Okay? You saw Jesus 2020. This is the Democratic platform that these people were putting in our face, stomping across America, where babies can be sacrificed with our tax money, and we have to pay it and put up with it in America. It's bad enough it happens at all, but we have to use the money that is taken from us, that we're forced to give, to pay for those deaths. God's not looking the other way. And there was no doubt lots of mischief, lots of stuff happened long before that party that Belshazzar had with 1,000 people showing up. That was just the final straw. And then God weighs. I don't know what it will be precisely, but I know it's coming. It's not far off. Handwriting is going to appear on the wall, and the hand behind it, that's God's hand himself. Not even an angel is going to get the opportunity to do that. It's going to be God himself is writing on the wall, because he will not allow his children to be the slaves of these monsters in America. Be they the highest official or the lowest official in the land. You can steal the vote, you can cook the vote, you can do anything you want. God decides who reigns and rules over men and women and his children. And those people that are praying and understood the call of God, the president asked for the American people to come, be counted, to be present. Many of the people that showed up here counted themselves as having been here in Washington, D.C. on behalf of those that were spread out across the country, couldn't be here themselves directly. So by proxy, they came from all over the country, as far away as Hawaii and Alaska, Washington, California, and every place in between, so that they could be counted as being here at a critical moment in history and make their presence, their attitudes, their understanding known, that they were not just going to roll over with a fake vote just because a bunch of bullshit artists thought they could pull it off. But in the end, they can do anything they want. God decides who rules and reigns over men in this earth, in every portion, in every corner. And even though they be some tribal lord out in the jungle, half a world away, or the purported president of the most powerful nation in the world, with armies and foot soldiers, demons, anything at their will, God decides when enough is enough. And I'm telling you, as sure as we have been speaking all this time, the handwriting is about to appear on the wall. Take it to the bank.
Amen. I believe you. Yeah. Every word. That was so powerful.
Look, you guys know, even when we were out in Vegas here a few weeks ago, of all places, Vegas, which has this certain reputation, okay? But you know what? I got to tell you that you can go out across the country, you can go to Washington, D.C., you have this perception of this wild and crazy city out there in Vegas. DC is wilder and crazier than Vegas is. There's more gambling going on here. There's more prostitution going on in here, you know, in more ways than just physical sex prostitution, okay? There's a lot of mental, financial prostitution, life prostitution.
Political prostitution.
That's exactly right. And it's going on every second, every day here. But what's amazing, the Capitol is surrounded by fencing right now. Hasn't come down. Still there. The National Guard is still here. What are they protecting against? What's the threat? They had all these articles that have occurred over the last few weeks about the QAnon army. It's going to come to D.C. and take over.
Right.
You're worried about that? Forget the QAnon army. They weren't worried about any QAnon army there at Belshazzar's party. They weren't even worried about the Medes and Persians.
Wow.
You know what you got to worry about, you guys? And I'm talking to these monsters that are enslaving America, that have their tentacles out across America, choking life out of America, deindustrializing America, sending all of its factories this way, all of its people having to go someplace else just to make a living, sending their children off to other parts of the world because they can't get an education here. You know what you got to worry about? You wanted to deindustrialize America, tear it apart, tear it asunder, have it run roughshod over by people coming in from all over the world to further dismantle it from within without becoming American-minded, become American citizens, not learn what America's history is all about, bring their chaos here and just set up a new shop for chaos. We can take people from outside the country and bring them in, and in time they become Americans. They become Americanized. But if they come here and they don't intend to do that, and they're just here to tear apart, that's not what America's all about. But I'm going to tell you, and it won't be decades away, it's not even years away, when we're done, this city is what's going to be deconstructed, deindustrialized. The machine that's here, those agencies that we need to administer America, they're going to be spread out across the country. This city is going to be dismantled in the way it functions. And those people spread out other places so that these lobbyists can't come here and make it easy for them to choke the life out of America right here. We're going to become stronger. We're going to spread back out. We're going to decentralize our federal operations so that they're not so easily twisted and turned to choke the life out of America. And God himself is the real threat. Those people that were laughing in the face of God, laughing in the face of God's people that showed them here on January 6th, God is not mocked. What those people need to fear and will learn to fear, if they want to laugh at us in the meantime, they will learn to fear God himself. From heaven himself, he is going to show who's in charge here, who picks leaders and how. It won't be men. It won't be people in this physical world that they'll have to learn to respect. It will be the God in heaven who will not have his people enslaved by these demon monsters and their servants. That's what's coming. Take it to the bank. I guarantee it. As God is God in heaven, he will not be mocked. It's coming.
Yay. It's wonderful.
Quick one. I want to slip it in. I just want to slip it in, Jen. I'm going to just slip it in. COVID-19 and the mark of the beast is their biblical connection.
Oh. The COVID-19, 19 is the power number. They had to brand this COVID thing with a number, and 19 is the number that relates to the other physics. And so you'll see, like, for example, this bill for
1.9 trillion.
Say again?
Yeah, the 1.9 trillion.
That's right, the 1.9 trillion. See, it's a 19. They put decimal points on that, but,
I listen.
So the long and short of it is, when we talk about the mark of the beast, a lot of people, you can have beast symbology. You can have numbers that have related meanings. You'll see lots of people marking things in a way to get power from that symbology. For example, Barack Obama was not born on August 4th, 1961. He was born months and months earlier, in the early spring of the year. And so when they picked that date as his birth date for the purposes of stuff going on, August 4th, or I take it back, it's August 4th, August 6th, can't remember off the top of my head. It's the 216th day of the year, August 4th. And so what's 6 times 6? It's 36.
36.
What's 6 times 36? 216. So the 216th day of the year, in a non-leap year. And what is it? It's a 666. So these wizards, these magicians, and by the way, that's a Brit mark on their Brit authorship to that whole scam. If you remember, they used Kenya, which was not called Kenya at the time, which was a Brit protectorate. He was actually born up in Canada at the Peace Arch Hospital, just across the border in Vancouver, BC, and that's where the mother went to pick him up and bring him back down to Seattle. Long and short of it is that that's the birthday of the Queen Mother also. The wizards that control these things, even into monarchies, insemination dates, even inducing pregnancies to have it have certain meaning on certain dates. Look at Prince William, born during a lunar eclipse. Why was that? Because they were anticipating, planning, because there had to be certain symbology associated. The Queen Mother, born at August 4th, 1900. They keep doing this because they want to, the numbers mean things to them in their religion. It's not that we're going to order our lives by the numbers, but we're certainly aware of them, especially to the extent that they want to use those numbers against us. God himself uses numbers. They have meaning. 40 days and 40 nights. 30 years old for a priest to begin his practices. It's born of the tribe of Levi. There's lots of numerical meanings that are consistent because God is consistent. I remember Brother Eby, who wrote books back in the 60s, had a near-death experience. And when he got to heaven, one of the things, he saw all these flowers in this particular field, and he was walking by this field, and he's looking at the flowers. He says, what was weird to him, and he thought about it, he said, all these flowers, in his mind, he said, all these flowers are absolutely identical. And in heaven, the answer comes even as you ask the question. The very question itself was the answer. The speed of light doesn't even apply in heaven. It's faster than that. And he said the instant he had the thought, he already had the answer. Why would all the flowers be exactly identical? Because everything in heaven is perfect. There's nothing that's imperfect in heaven. And so the flowers were perfect, all of them identical, because they were made with perfection. There's a certain way that God is going to deal with his people on the numbers and dates, seasons, etc. Are all significant in the economy of God. But we don't order ourselves. God's perfection. And so they're trying to force certain outcomes by making things happen on the numbers. But all of their chicanery, all of their maneuvering, all of their forced outcomes to hit the numbers, to hit the dates, to hit the celestial targets, just like on 9/11. The true birth date of Christ was September 11th at 3 BC. Yes. So what they want to do is they want to hit, vilify certain dates. Look, 9/11 couldn't have happened on 9/10. Wouldn't have had all the symbology. Couldn't have happened on 9/12. You're looking at a religious operation. In fact, I talk about D.C. having all the symbology spread all over the city, and the phallic symbol right in the middle of the city, right in the middle of our federal institutions. Our whole country is being administered by the cult that worships a big dildo. You think I'm kidding? You think I'm kidding?
No, I know you're not kidding.
No, yeah, I know you're
You think God's laughing at that? Oh, God, please bless us. Please bless America. Bless what?
Right.
You got a dildo in the middle of your federal city? But God's got to bless us. Which God?
Right.
I'm serious.
Right.
Come on, wake up. Get real.
Good question.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah. It's amazing, Juan, because I know that like a lot of Masonic people that we knew growing up, like I'm realizing that I grew up with so many of them, and they're pastors even, and I've heard that they find a way to, reconcile having two gods in a sense. Like they live in two different worlds. They present one to the pulpit and a private side in the lodge. But I want to ask you please to address the whole issue with the border wall, because I really received all of that you talked about with the wall and the writing on the wall, because that story, you were bringing all of our biblical stories like to a different level. Like just listening to you, I appreciate it so much. But could you address the wall at our southern border and the crisis going on?
Well, in the context of the story that I was just relating, but somewhere in here, there's going to be an event, a series of events, and everything's going to come to a head. Who's really in charge? Who's really calling the shots in America? The military, who hasn't actually been fully outed one way or the other on this, Congress has. They failed to reconcile the false vote, the faked vote, the digital Pearl Harbor against America with these Dominion vote systems. The judiciary, yesterday, for the third and final time, the Supreme Court said, no, we're not going to hear these cases. We're not going to, do any further on them. Joe Biden is president of the United States, and that's it. And we're not going to go after, hear cases related to this false, fake, stolen vote against the American people. Look, the American people know that the vast majority voted for Trump as president. Even in those contested states where they're shredding ballots to hide the evidence, even in those places, they didn't go Biden. They went Trump. And you got half a dozen states, 4 states that are making the decision for the rest of America, where the majority of the people, the majority of the states clearly, decisively voted for President Trump. And you got a few crooked officials that won't get to the truth, crooked judges that won't get to the truth because it doesn't fit their paradigm. It doesn't enrich their buddies. It doesn't protect their positions. And so because of that, America is going to be their slaves. They're going to be the crime lords. Their families are going to benefit from stealing of America. They're going to preside over the dismantling of industry in America, of oil, energy, mining, and send it to other places around the world where their buddies have their ranches, their farms, their businesses, to make them rich against the American people, against God's people. That's not going to happen. It's not going to happen because God's people showed up and were counted, and they can say anything they want about what happened on January 6th. God knows what happened. The American people showed up directly and by proxy. Those people that were here represented those that couldn't be here physically, but were here in spirit. That is a fact. God didn't miss it. He saw it full on. And he's going to act. It's just a matter of time. What exactly is the moment? Well, I guess that's part of what God's role here is. He enjoys a nice surprise. You think those people in that party at that exact instant when they're pouring the wine and all the goblets, they're having a great time, the party's on, okay?
They didn't expect that.
No.
They didn't expect that.
The same thing when Jesus was crucified too. They celebrated for 3 days.
Hey, the demons thought they had it all won. And even at that moment, even as this whole debacle was occurring on the wall, the city's all, just imagine Babylon itself, the whole city's reverberating with the word, a hand just appeared out of nowhere. This is CNN. And a hand just appeared out of nowhere on the wall at the royal party at the palace, and according to reports from real sources, it wrote right in the wall like it was writing in butter. And that was not just concrete, okay? That wouldn't have made me well. That was stone, okay? That's the good stuff, okay? And it wrote right in the wall. Hello?
Wow.
Okay. Well, what do you think about this? What do you think the outcome is going to be from such an event? How are the officials going to react to this handwriting on the wall incident out in the future? Do you think that it's going to have an effect on how they administer now? Yes, we're going to have executive orders about writing on the wall. No more writing on the wall. Kids won't even be given crayons anymore because we cannot have, they can't take any chances of more writing on the wall of any sort. Okay? No writing on the refrigerator door. There's no writing anymore. In fact, we're not even putting paint on the walls anymore. Because we can't have that. We're not even putting walls up anymore. Everybody's going to live outside, and you're not going to have walls to write on anymore. That is how we're solving this problem. No more writing on the wall forever, okay? Okay. Thank you. And now let's go to our commercial sponsor.
Right.
Okay, and no more Dr. Seuss.
That's right. I know. Oh my God. You know, when you were saying that, when you were telling us that story, I was just imagining the party. I could just see it in my mind, and I could hear the record player scratch, the needle scratch, that like stop. He would be like buzzkilled, like if they were drunk, that would sober them up instantly.
Well, the guys back there, they're doing the music. We have music on there, and he's doing the thing with the record. He's got it all going on. They got the rap going, everything. Hello. Whoa, you see that? No, what? Look, right over there. Where? What? Hey, and you're the last guy to turn around to see it, right? I was busy right at that moment. What? But you know what? That's what it's going to be like. And the one thing that I will say is this: it's interesting you mentioned the wall. What is that incident going to be that's going to be the attention getter? What's God going to choose, or is it going to be several things? I mean, this incident with the writing on the wall that happened over in Persia. That was where Babylon was at. And it was the Medes and the Persians, which became Iran in the modern day, where that happened. Is God going to use something there to get everybody's attention. I believe because the military has not handed over the keys to the jet. You know, he's got, somebody sent a meme the other day. Oh my gosh, it was funny. And it's, you know how kids have their little play keys, like mom and dad's keys for the car, little plastic keys, you know, they're red, yellow, green. Okay. It was so funny looking. I thought it was hysterical. And somebody sent a picture, you know, Joe Biden's keys to the nuclear arsenal. To the briefcase, okay? You know, that's the funniest thing. Here, Joe, okay, you can play with these for a while. Yeah, Cheyenne Mountain's still locked up tighter than a drum, and nobody's got advisors in there. Oh, it's COVID. It's COVID-19. Yep, that's it. But so two quick answers. Number one, I'm not sure what is going to be the meeting on the wall. And by the way, Prim.
We love it.
I accepted the name. I've accepted the Prim.
Yeah, we love it.
The one thing that I will say is that the market beast, at that time, I think we'll have very clear understanding of what it is precisely. And there's some stuff that's out there that I think bears a lot of close examination, but we're not there yet. And when the time comes, we'll be given enough light at that moment. There's a lot of stuff, you know, Hitler's the Antichrist. Well, he's an Antichrist personality, but so was Nero.
Right.
But that doesn't make him the Antichrist. Even other people talked about Obama. I want to imply that Trump is or something. You know, it's a very cavalier, casually thrown around understanding. But the reality is, when we get to that moment, God will give us light. His angels will be there to give us light about what it truly means. And there is stuff that goes to changes that happen even in your DNA from some of the things that would be done with vaccines and tattoos and things like that. So, but that's not this now. You know, am I going out to get the vaccine? Not in your freaking life, man. Come on. You know, can they guarantee that they're not going to screw my DNA up or mess me up or some of the other stuff that's been shown with fertility and all that? You know, I'm not planning on having any kids, but I know a lot of teenagers older that have different ambitions at this point in their life. And we don't want to look. You can say anything you want. There's a crowd there. You know the names of them that have a different way of viewing humanity and the world and what they want to do. It goes all the way back to the garden. At the very end of all the story, all you're looking at is puppets and players. It's the devil, Satan, versus God, and he wants to corrupt God's creation, the children of Adam. This beautiful creation that God made for Adam and his seed, his descendants. And the children of Cain, the children of the devil himself, want to corrupt that and change that and pervert it forever. No direct descendants of Adam, only the hybrids. I talk about it in my book.
Yeah, it's a good explanation. Now, Juan, can I ask you something since we're on the subject of that? Because I don't have any shaking of my faith in what's happening, but I know a lot of people, they got, panicked again because they feel that, oh my God, during the CPAC speech, I consider the State of the Union from the real president, actually, but during that speech, people got a little nervous because they feel like President Trump is pushing vaccines. Can you address that and alleviate some of those fears?
Yeah, that has come up even in a call I had this morning from someone. And so I guess we should talk about it. Look, people are so fearful of this whole vaccine thing. They have been amped up so much. And I would actually say it maybe this way. We hear about MKUltra programs. the CIA had their MK Ultras. Out of people, making people into almost robotic devices that could be controlled remotely by words, by drugs, by terror. Part of the way that you force someone to do your will, to make a slave out of them, is that you terrorize them so much that they're so afraid of the terrors that they will do anything to not go through those terrors. It's a self-defense system. It's a mental control self-defense system. And so it's terror-based programming, pain-based programming. So we as a society, with various types of terrors, an obvious one being 911 or Oklahoma City, even the Davidian thing. People are like, what? How's that a part of a mental terror thing? Hello, 51-day siege, 17's their number, 3 times 17 maximum power of a spell, 51-day siege. That's the Osiris imprint on the event, the fiery event. Resistance is futile. We're going to save the children. We have to save the children. These people are so messed up. We've got to save the children. Oh, okay, so you save them by tear gassing them and burning them alive? Wow. Okay? There's monsters behind these events. These events are not accidental. They're planned, far more planned than people understand or give credit to, because it's part of this MK Ultra at the societal level. The practice that was done, that was exposed in the hearings back in the mid-70s, where all the CIA's activities out across the world were exposed, and these evils that were done were exposed. That was against individuals, drugging them to program them, traumatizing them to program them, to create mental slaves, to look at how a psyche, the types of drug-induced controls, and terrors, etc. But at the end of the day, you have to understand that they weren't only interested in doing it just against individuals, but against communities and against whole nations. And then all of that which was supposedly, purportedly, to protect us in America, so that our intelligence agencies could do this to people all over the world. And then we would maintain control and protect ourselves against threats out across the world. It's a Frankenstein monster. And that which was being done supposedly to go against the whole world, that Frankenstein monster has come back and has America in this death grip. Remember the Dominion vote machine fraud? The players that were involved in it were CIA also. MI6 out of Britain, MI5, the British equivalent of our FBI. Where did Page and Stroke go when they were concocting this dossier and building it out against President Trump, and even before he was president, when he was candidate Trump? That was over there at the City of London. And what is another way of looking at it, this is mind control against America. It's MK Ultraing against America. How to control the thoughts of a whole country using the news services and the way you control a story and how it's projected out there. And then I come back to your original question. COVID-19, the shots, the cure. People are so programmed that they can't get out of the paradigm. They're so in fear on the whole that you have to give them something, be it real or a placebo, that they can reconcile. They cannot get, they can't hear us. They can't get unlocked. And so is this vaccine the worst vaccine in the world? Which is worse, the cure or the disease? If the cure kills you, well, that's too bad. If the disease kills you, well, that's too bad. It's a catch-22. Which one kills you first? At the end of the day, if there's people that the only way they're going to be able to function and relax is that they've got their vaccine, well, maybe that's what you have to do. And then, by the way, we're talking about America right now, but this is a battle for the whole planet. How we perceive within our community, within our country, the truths of this vaccine, our people are still going to have to be able to go into other parts of the world and function. In those places, they're much more locked up. Do we have to be able to show that we've had the vaccine in order to go other places? That might be. I don't have a perfect answer on this. I know, though, that the world is so programmed on this, the bad guys believe that they've got this set up so precisely, so intricately, that you're not going to be able to stop them. Even if we win a few battles here domestically in the U.S., they believe that they're going to win the war. And I would also add, anybody that thinks this wasn't pre-planned, that it was just the Chinese that did this against America, or some labs out in Maryland or other places that did it and then it went somewhere else, or Harvard people involved, where we do have prosecutions taking place where these materials got loose and sent out of America. Anybody that thinks that that's the full extent of it and it just accidentally happened, go look at the art that was put all over the walls at the Denver airport that show people in gas masks and masks. Okay, they knew exactly what they were planning and how they were going to pull this off over the whole world, even to polluting the currency, so you had to get rid of the paper currency because it's carrying all the infectious diseases all over it, and go to their digital currency. Okay, how does that digital currency create? It's mined in computers. The bigger and the faster the computers, the faster the algorithms are come up with, and you got more coin. Who has more computers than anybody? The best, the fastest. CIA, NSA, of course. These intelligence agencies are out ahead of you. There's so many light years ahead of you on a lot of this stuff. And it just happened. It just happened, and it was so surprising, and everybody agrees to it. Now you're being played. Grow up. Don't be a kid anymore. And by the way, God is not mocked. God will not be mocked.
Quick one.
Juan, can you just answer real quick, Juan, on the can you just talk about the book for a minute and talk about 107 Daily? So, can people still get the book if they want the book, the first edition? Is that possible?
There is some. I know that I haven't really paid super close attention. I might have to talk to my folks, but I think we've got some still left. It's we held some back because we had some that we weren't sure if they got sent out correctly, if they got stopped somewhere along the way. Day by day, we're getting that resolved. There was some early orders that we're still solving every one of those. And I've held books back to make sure we have every one of those orders covered. I'm not going to have somebody lost out here that didn't get their first edition book that ordered. And I apologize profusely for those where they didn't get it right away. We did our part on our end. But if we have to do anything to get that covered, we're going to cover it. I'm going to make sure those people get taken care of. So, and I think we're getting closer by the hour to having that all resolved. Early on, I held a bunch of the books back to make sure we had that. We've got it down where I'm pretty comfortable that we have those numbers covered, and we're resolving those day by day. as we get down to few and far numbers where we know there was some delivery issues, we freed up some of the last of those books. And so we just freed up, I think there was 4,000 or 5,000 that were freed up yesterday or day before. And there'll be just a hair more than that, and then we're done. And second edition is just about done in the artwork and all that. I expect to approve that sometime this weekend, and then that'll start going to print. So long and short of it is there is some, but there's not going to be a pile more. And if folks want it, but I'm not trying to promote anything. The second edition is going to be amazing all by itself. If somebody wants first edition or some of those, the second edition is going to be really cool also. With some,
so if someone placed an order, if someone placed an order, they can get, they'll either get what you have left of the first edition, or they'll get the second edition, which will be great too. So in other words, on our websites, we have, we when people go to our websites, Juan, that we're putting together now, we allow people to order the books right from our website. So we can keep those there and let people order as much as they want.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I mean, I want people to have the book. I mean, one of the things people have to understand, too, we send it out, the second edition will go out differently, I believe, than the first did. And it will be more expensive. But the first edition, we send it out the least expensive way possible. And I was trying to be as inexpensive. I wanted people to have it. And I even added a second book in there, which increased the mailing cost after we had also been out. But if I was to send it out so you have it 3 days guaranteed UPS, the price on the book would be well over double. Yeah, I mean, it'd be way more. It's £3 for 2 books.
Very worth it because it's a quality book.
Yeah, and I mean, I want people. I'm not trying to just market something or whatever. I'm very appreciative of all the people who've ordered. I really haven't talked about the book that much, other than it's there. I appreciate what you guys have said and all that, but I wasn't trying to, turn the conversation to a big marketing conversation. I just, people read it. It's got, I think, 3,400 reviews or something, just on Gumroad, where it's 5 stars. It's 97% people rate it 5-star, and I think people feel that they got their money's worth once they get it. I feel horrible that we had some early people that didn't get it timely, and we're resolving that. I'm not dropping it until they're all taken care of. I am sweating bullets. That we had some folks that got to you, and we've been comparing those orders. Some of the ones, I will add this too. This one of the things that we found. We had a bunch of people that got all upset they didn't get their book. We're going back into the record looking. If they got the ebook, that wasn't ordering the book, and so we had a bunch of people that ordered the ebook, but they didn't actually order the book itself. Wow. The ebook came out first, and then I go back in the record, and I think they ordered the actual book. And what I did was, when we didn't have the book ready yet, but people ordered the ebook, then which was $12 or whatever. Then when we did have the book available way back at the beginning, when this first happened, the last week of October, we sent out an email to all those people that if they had ordered the ebook, that they got the book itself for an additional $12 or $13, and that included mailing. And then I said, just to sweeten the pot, we were going to put 2 books in instead of 1, because I wanted people to give them away. And so that was as close as I could cut it. And I wasn't trying to cut a fat hog. I was trying to get the book out for people and let them enjoy it and all that. And so we kept it that way. But a lot of those people thought, apparently, from our side, it was pretty clear, but, maybe somebody didn't understand or something, that when they were ordering the ebook, that they weren't ordering the physical book. The physical book was then an additional second order. And the reason it was so cheap on the second book was because they had bought the ebook. I didn't want it to cost them money. And so if you bought the physical book, paid the extra $13 and had the 2 books sent that made it so that you got the ebook for free. That was the whole point. And so some people, well, I didn't want the ebook. I only want the physical book. All right. And so we had, and by the way, I ordered a specific number of books initially, and then we used up all the paper that was available in the system out across the country because they used a special paper. It's much heavier, and it took them a while to fulfill that order. So instead of being able to print it all in one print, they had to do, I think, 3 separate printings of the exact same first edition version, but they had to pause while they waited for more paper to come in. And if you remember, with COVID, the elections, the holidays, they had some storms. We actually had to go and get paper from another location because the original paper was down where they had a tornado and damaged that facility, and even the paper wasn't able to be used. So I paid extra to have it shipped in from a northern state to the printer. So then they broke the binding thing because the book is so big. They had to strike it 3 times to get the binding, and it's a perfect bound print, but it's an unusual thing. They use glues that don't break down after a few months. It's not like a magazine off the rack or something like that, or a book that's just use it and gone. It's intended like textbooks for school and like that to be able to use over and over and over and over and not fall apart. And so there's a lot of little intricacies there on the weight, the binding, and the glues and all that had to be honored. Well, we broke that binding thing, and they actually had to get, they rebuilt it. It still broke. They had a new one made. It didn't quite fit the machine. Then they got another one, and then they got that to work. So there was a couple different steps. I actually have other publications that I'm getting ready to do related to some of these projects, and because it's unique enough, I decided to go ahead and stick with this size and format. I think it's kind of fun. I like the large size. I like it that it's easy for people, to peruse over and like that. And so I'm just going to stick with that format for other stuff that we have in the pipeline right now. So, it's a long story. I don't think gone into that depth anywhere else, but since you asked me, I thought I'd just mention that. But yeah, look, if you don't get this version, you'll get the second. Quite different in many ways. It's the same word content, but there's some really cool Easter eggs and variations in it that you're going to really enjoy, including related to the events of the 6th and the movie by Jennifer Mack, The Called. And that's going to be a lot of fun too. And then last thing you mentioned, the 107 Daily. I haven't posted there yet myself. I never do any social media, never have. If you see anything somewhere that's purporting to be me, that's not me. There may be some fan sites that are doing stuff at various locations. I never have ever posted anywhere myself at all. So if you see something, that's not me. People take stuff that I've done or said, and then they put it into stuff, and I'm fine with that. And, it's out there, and let them do it.
Get the word out. Yeah.
Right. But 107daily.com is my platform, and it's pretty unique. In fact, a certain person with one of the other major platforms, who's CEO of that platform, was talking with a friend of mine yesterday, and we were doing some test stuff on the platform. He says, "Well, you're just using this program right here, and that's that, but it's been shown to be a problem, and you can't do that. You're going to run into problems, as you get into larger and larger numbers." And that was actually very nice that he said that, because he was actually trying to do us a favor. And but I had to go back to my friend and say, "No, you don't understand. That was my engineers doing a test, and our main system for using that particular area of the site. We've written that all ourselves. That's all our own code. I had my engineers do something amazing, which they did. But when they were testing the system before our code was completely finished, they used an off-the-shelf system. We just bought a license for it to do it, and doing some video tests like that. That is not what we're going to put up there. We're doing something much more complex, and I've signed a number of pretty large checks over the last couple of weeks for our connectivity, and we won't have anybody in the way. There's no big providers that are going to stop us once our new system's in place, and that's only days away now. So really right now we're in a beta phase still. Technically, you'll see the site's running great. We have pretty heavy activity, but shortly shows like yours and a lot of these people that have been deplatformed other places are going to be on our site, and you'll be able to come find all the people that you've enjoyed all along, and all of their old shows, their current shows, their live programming. They'll be able to monetize their work, be able to take donations right during the live work, and then moving forward, myself, and I've never said this anywhere publicly. I may have said it a couple times privately, but I will be doing a show once a week. I believe it'll be Saturday in the late afternoon, early evening, and that's going to be about an hour and a half show a week. But it's going to be on specific subjects that I want to talk about. I'll still do the interviews like I've done with you folks, but I have some subjects that I want to talk about, and I'll do that once a week. All that activity, all the shows that you listen to, the stuff that I'm going to do will be behind a paywall. It's cheap. It's $3 a month. Half the cost of a cup of Starbucks coffee, and you'll get all of your shows available there, and their history, including their YouTube like archive, etc. Part of the reason for that is if we get mischief and there's people that want to do bizarre stuff, I'll give them the $3 back and send them home. We're going to have a free, fair conversation in America. We are not going to be stopped from having a conversation in America. And if you think you're going to muzzle the American people, think again. God himself is not going to allow the American people to be muzzled. That's this moment in history. I expect a hand to appear out of a cloud at any moment. And God will not be mocked. And these people will have to do the will of God or be subjected to it. Their enemies are about to come under the wall, take over their cities, and free America, and we are not going to be their slaves any fucking more.
Amen.
Yay! God bless America. Thank you so much.
Amen. Thank you a lot.
And by the way, let me just add one thing. I want to clarify something for all the grandmas out there and mothers and everything else. Yes, I use some harsh language here. Do you know when Christ himself, he nearly knocked over the crowds one time, several times, is they're sitting there and they're getting all, oh, it's so beautiful, and he's speaking such beautiful holy words and everything else. And you know what he said?
What he said?
He said, woe is you. Out across the crowds, the Sadducees and Pharisees, the most righteous and holier than thou people out there. And what did he say that for? Why? God himself had his prophets. Woe! Woe is you! What's woe mean? What's this woe about? Whoa, horsey, you're out there riding on the rags. Whoa, no. What's the real context of the term woe?
Right.
Okay? If a people was conquered by an enemy, the enemy would come in, and the men would be killed, often in the most gruesome ways, if the city was captured. And then the children, just as I explained with Babylon, what were these people so afraid of? Woe is you, you people who won't bow your knee to God in heaven, who bow your knee to Baal and Moloch. What was the woe about? You're fucked.
Yeah.
That's what it meant.
Right.
Okay? Why? Because these people come in, they take them captive, including sexual captivity.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
They became their concubines. Their daughters were the sex slaves to the conquerors. That is the history. That's what was going on. The woe is the equivalent of, the very direct, exact equivalent of, you are fucked. Okay? And when you look at that monument in the center of your national capital, what do they say? Fuck you. You understand it? It's that clear.
Yeah.
That is a great big dildo on purpose. Oh no, they put whatever names they want on it. It's all gold-plated shit. And everybody, oh yes, it's so wonderful. And they're laughing at you. The demons are laughing at you.
Amen.
They're laughing that you don't get it. It's right in your face. And you don't even know what you're looking at. They're laughing at you. Okay? And all I can say is God's not going to be mocked. And at this point, neither is people. Right in their face, a hand, an apparition, is going to appear from nowhere out of the cloud. And it is going to write, you're fucked. And this day, your kingdom is going to be required of you. And the American people are taking their country back. Take it to the bank.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Can you speak to one thing real quick? How much is going on behind the scenes for the people who think nothing is happening? This is what we get all the time. We get this all the time.
Nothing was happening until the hand appeared out of nowhere.
I hear that.
I can wait for God. When Daniel was on the other side of the kingdom in seclusion, nobody wanted to hear anything he said. Nobody wanted him around because what he would say wasn't what they wanted to hear. Do you think he was twiddling his fingers, or was he praying? And what was he praying? You think he didn't know what was coming? The reason they didn't know what was coming, it says in the scriptures that God always reveals to his prophets what he's going to do next. He never does anything in the dark for the purposes of the prophets. But what happened was they removed Daniel from an area of an influence. They didn't want him around. They didn't want to hear what he had to say because he said things that were troublesome to them, bothersome. It annoyed them. So what's God do? He did tell Daniel what was going on. Daniel was anticipating that moment, as all the prophets of God are.
Right.
The people in their 501c3 churches who are doing the approved worship and paying their alms to this federal monster in the approved way so they get their approved tax deduction, keep their 501c3 church going. Okay. Without having to pay federal taxes on their gifts, but they also won't talk about anything that's not, talkable. Politics, we don't talk about that in our church. Okay, well, fine. Okay. Well, you can push God out of the conversation for so long. Had Belshazzar been allowing the prophet of God around him, he might have heard something other than the approved ministers of education, the approved authorities who know what's going to happen in the kingdom next. And he might have known to watch out for the river, watch out for the enemy. He might not have been partying so hard. Okay? Might not have had all his officials in one place where they could easily be taken over because they were all gathered for the big party on the critical night. And by the way, when the Medes and Persians dammed up the river, They knew that this party was going to happen. That announcement had gone out far and wide. These people were relaxed, head down and feeding. They didn't see it coming. They planned that for the day when this event was occurring, when everybody wasn't paying attention. These people think it's over. It's not over by a far sight.
Right.
Very clear. Thank you.
Thank you for that, yes, sir.
Thank you for your time, Juan. We appreciate you.
Yeah, we do. We appreciate it. Godspeed, Juan. We love you, and we keep you in prayer, and we just thank you for everything you're doing.
It's mutual. Thanks for giving me a chance to have a talk with your folks. Be in prayer. Prayer changes things. And if you're not happy with how fast it's happening, how it's happening, whether it's happening, if you're looking to the world, if you're looking to their news services, if you're looking to their prophets and guides and witches and wizards, then you're probably going to miss what's about to happen, what's coming. You'll be with them just as surprised when the apparition appears out of nowhere. But if you're in prayer, if you're seeking a word from God himself, if you're getting your strength, your stability, your peace from the God in heaven, you won't be surprised. You know it's coming. You can feel it in your bones. Those that are prayerfully looking to heaven for relief at this critical moment know it's coming. They can feel it in their bones. It's coming.
Juan,
You'll be here just in time.
You closed the meeting. You closed the meeting with Nino the other night with the prayer. Would you just close us in prayer? Well, quick prayer.
Sure, love to.
Thank you, Juan.
Father God in heaven,
Thank you, Lord.
we know that you reign supreme over the earth. There is no kingdom, there is no power, there is no individual, there is no group that is superior to you. And when you weigh a people, a nation, an individual, and find them wanting, as has happened here in America today, you are not mocked. When your children are being put into slavery of every type, financial, sexual, mental, when your innocent ones, your children, young children, are unable to protect themselves, and then the machine is allowing them to be you're not mocked, and you won't turn aside forever. We pray that you would intercede on behalf of the American people, your church, your people, and that those of us who are looking to you will find relief in your actions quickly now to save us. Save us from these godless people, these godless men and women who worship Moloch and Satan by their actions, by their deeds, and to turn all of our resources, all of our work, all of our efforts to their purposes against you. We pray that you, Father God, would intercede in the affairs of men, and that you would bless us with your presence, with your protection, with your divine action, and that your hand would appear on the wall and announce your judgment in our behalf. Please, God, help us hear our prayer. Big doors turn on tiny hinges. Open that door and those hinges for us now, and change the fate of America, and use us as your instruments to change the fate of the world going out into the future. In Jesus' name, amen.
Absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much. Wow.
Thank you for that.
Thank you so much, Juan. That was wonderful.
All right.
Great example for all of us, Juan. That's what we should all do, just like that. Thank you very much, sir. We appreciate you. We love you.
All right. Love all you folks
Take
too.
care.
Keep the faith.
Thank you.
Look Wait for the hand, wait for everybody to appear on the wall. That's the message.
Preach it, brother.
We got this. God bless everybody. Love you all. Bye now. Bye, Juan. Thank you. You're awesome. Thank you. Bye, everybody.